This is Referee's World with Darren Cullum and Richard Mellin.
Hello again and welcome to the Referee's World podcast. My name's Darren Cullum. I'm a level 5 referee affiliated with Somerset FA, and this is my colleague, my mentor and PGMLO assessor, level 4 tutor amongst other things. I always forget that long list of distinguishment, Rich Mellin, ladies and gents.
Hi, Darren.
How was the summer, first of all?
Sometimes wet, sometimes warm, but, you know...
Much golfing?
Not enough golf. A little bit of a holiday, but like everybody else.
I saw some of your pictures.
Oh, okay.
I'm pleased to say I didn't see white bits. Let's move on. Anyway, this is a podcast for referees of all levels. So you could be right at the very top of the game. You could be just coming in at grassroots level. Hopefully when you listen, you can pick up some ideas, some tips and get involved as well. That's what we do here at the podcast. We like to sort of keep it fresh and chop and change things every now and again and get stuck into interviews and conversations. And of course, you can listen to us online, either at the website, refereesworld.co.uk, or you can listen to us on iTunes. Just go to iTunes and search out Referees World, sign up to the podcast, and then they'll drop into your little inbox every time there's a new one. So we're into a new season, okay? And we thought we'd leave it just a couple of weeks just for the season to bed in. So we've got some meat on the bone, let's say, to bring up discussions with.
Yeah.
And bringing that and bearing that in mind, I think one of the first things we need to look at is the changes in law.
Yeah, I think it's best to say interpretation. Change of interpretation. And that refers to the offside.
And that's the main one.
Law
obviously.
11. It is slightly differently interpreted, and rightly so. We've seen a couple of incidents on live games, and it's all about the forward now impacting on the defender or on the goalkeeper.
So for those that haven't actually read or seen the actual law change themselves, shame on you first of all. So how is it described these days compared to what it was?
Well, there would be an element of waiting for the guy to be involved previously, and it was almost sort of playing the ball. Let's say he was actually playing the ball. That's what we were looking for, and it wouldn't deviate from that very much. But now with the new interpretation, and I think it's made it easier personally. That's how I see it, and I've seen it operated now on quite a few games at Football League level, and the lads are settling in. There's one or two sort of questions being asked of match officials, and generally the standard, the recognition of offside is good. It is good.
Do these changes in recognition or interpretation, should I say, tighten the game up?
Yeah, a little bit.
I suppose the one question that because we've obviously, before we came into recording in the studio, we've talked about the instance that we're going to try and go through. I think looking back, these instances, okay, surely they're going to have to be shown on the big screens at the grounds so that everybody else can see what's going on because of the way and the speed that these instances happen. A lot of people are not going to see it and they're going to think, well, hang on a minute, and surely that's going to impact on the officials.
Well, that's a debate we could have, and I mean, our listeners would join in with the debate if we could all get round and have a chat. Will they put... replays on the big screens in the grounds? Only the powers that be that will decide that, and that's their decision. There has to be reasons for safe reasons for doing it, and not looking for controversial reasons, because that's not what football should be judged by, controversial decisions. But that's how people do look at it at some cases, and we're going to talk about a couple of offside decisions that we've seen on the TV recently, and the one Crystal Palace involving Palace versus Aston Villa, the goal was correctly disallowed. That's not been played so many times, but the one involving the Liverpool-Bournemouth Benteke goal, I'll call it the Benteke goal, that's been shown so many times because it's a wrong judgment, and that's not hiding behind anything. It's been declared that it was an incorrect judgment relating to an offside position, and the goal shouldn't have stood. So we're going to discuss that, but it has, for me, it's made it a little bit easier. but my colleagues who run the line as assistant referees will, obviously have their own opinions as regards settling in with the new interpretation or the adjusted interpretation. So, I'm on the basis that I've seen the 6 games that I've done for the PGMOL, I have seen a level of competency that matches expectation, and well done to those lads that have achieved that.
Now, surely those involved in these situations have to be so on top of their game, because it's all about the phases of the game, isn't it, which can then bring the actual law into operation.
The skill sets for assistant referees,
and I think the one that you really want to touch on is the Crystal Palace one, where the assistant referee at the far end of the field of play was the chap that gave the decision down the headsets, down using the communications, that it should not be allowed.
Yeah, the one involving the disallowed goal for Crystal Palace, correctly disallowed, was all about sharing information. And this early in the discussion, I think it's quite easy to say to all my colleagues listening out there, the days of telling your assistant referees when you're giving them pre-match debrief, when you tell them offside are yours at all times, that has now disappeared, because using the Crystal Palace versus Villa example, that is a clear indication of how to share information. The active assistant referee, by all accounts, wasn't quite clear if the Crystal Palace player in an offside position had touched the ball.
Because he was blocked. His view was blocked, wasn't it?
No, because the position of the player, he had his back to him. So the Palace player's back was directly facing.
It was the referee.
It was the referee.
The referee that was blocked.
The referee that was blocked. Now the referee saw the ball go, as far as he was aware, it was played from 20 yards out directly into goal. Now that's how his interpretation of it. But there was a Crystal Palace player in an offside position. Did he impact on the defenders? Did he impact on the goalkeeper? Or even did he touch the ball? Now, 2 of 3 match officials that were active couldn't actually make that clear judgment, but someone else shared information, and it's a great decision to disallow the goal. And it's correct. Whilst I say it's a great decision, I'm talking about the level of teamwork. It was a great piece of teamwork.
See, this is what I mean, going back to what I was saying just now about replaying those instances on a big screen in the ground so the rest of the crowd can see it.
That is a good exception. That is a good
I appreciate
reason.
that there'll be many people that say, well, that's not possible because of finances and this, that and the other. But there is so much money now with the TV rights. I mean, what does each club get? What, 100 million, 150 million?
It's a lot of money.
Surely out of that money, part of the decisions made should be perhaps that there's a big screen there, to help show these instances, because it would then help the crowd get off the referee or the official's back. Do you see what I'm getting at?
I think you've got a valid point. And like I say, I'm sure my colleagues...
Because not everybody would have seen the decision and they'd have thought that it was all wrong. But because they could communicate properly through the system...
Yeah. I'm sure that my colleagues and our bosses at the PGMOL have discussed this at some length and repeatedly at length as regards... should they be showing replays of any sort at a ground? I mean, there are certain things that could be shown, and I think this is a good example of one, but there are some things that could be deemed as a little bit...
antagonistic.
Yeah, and that might not be good. So I understand why we don't do it at the moment, but there could be some sort of code come in as regards what's acceptable and what's not acceptable to play on the big screen.
A good few years ago, I'm talking early sort of 2000s, I was doing the pitchside commentary and the microphone stuff at Cardiff City at Ninian Park, which is a cauldron to be in. An absolute cauldron. And they had big screen stuff, and whenever they scored a goal, they would replay that during match time. Whenever there was an away goal, they obviously wouldn't touch it because it would wind the fans up. But, the facilities are clearly there at some levels.
Yeah, resources are there
lower than Premier League,
at specific levels. And I just think it has to be carefully managed. There's no doubt about that. So whilst I understand the idea is hugely interesting to sort of introduce it, but there has to be levels of what we will accept and what can't be accepted as regards what they will replay. And arguably, that Crystal Palace incident versus the Villa, I thought that would be a real good piece of education, interesting, and it would explain how they got to the decision and why.
Is that a very good example that you would use in a training schedule?
Oh, I think so.
To play that clip at various
I think that
meetings and stuff.
That will already have been used by some. I don't know where, and I couldn't quote who would be using it. But let me say, locally, as West Somerset referees, for instance, will be using that as an example of good teamwork, sharing information and communicating. And that's what we ask match officials to do: share information and communicate. And let's get the big decisions right. And that was obviously a big decision, and they got it exactly right.
But on the other side of the coin, that very same setup for a goal could have been done on a lower league, a county league, where they don't have the headsets and stuff.
Yeah, that comes down to face-to-face dialogue.
Yeah.
You know, there's a level of sharing information, and let me say to you, the assistant referee on the halfway line doesn't have communications kit to verbally communicate with the referee, but he has got a pair of eyes, and he can see what goes on at the other end. Now, if he saw, let's say, a player punch another player behind the referee's back and nobody else saw it but he saw it, he can inform the referee to take appropriate action to dismiss for violent conduct. So here we are as regards a key match incident or key match decision whereby assistant referee on the halfway line clearly sees a player in an offside position. Let's say he does know he's in an offside position because it's so obvious. Referee is blocked, gives the goal. If I incorrectly restart the game wrong in law, please tell me. That's what referees are quoting in their pre-match. If I look like I'm going to restart the game wrong in law, please tell me. Now, arguably, that's a reason to come to the referee and give him some information about what you've seen. And if you think he's incorrect in law, then I think you have an obligation as an assistant referee to help him out. And secure good teamwork with credible information. Don't say I think I saw him touch it or I don't think he touched it. You've got to be certain. You've got to be certain. You can't sort of play guesswork, and no one I know out there in the top end of football refereeing guesses. They don't guess. There's a good instinct and there's a good level of observation, good angles, good viewing positions, and they come together as a set of skills. So those listening are aspiring to go towards the top end of football as a match official. There's a lot to learn, and just digressing slightly, the assistant referee skill sets are forever developing, and it's fascinating to watch the good assistant referees and to learn from them.
And it's every reason for you, as you go up through the system, to make sure that you hone those skills at the early stage, because we can all rely on technologies, but sometimes technologies can go wrong or they may not be available at any time. But as long as you've got a good solid set of communication skills, then it should carry you as far as you want to go.
Yeah. I mean, we're digressing slightly here from Law 11 and the offside interpretation at the moment, but we're fortunate here in our area that we've got a set of buzzer flags, which I know is commonly available across the country and elsewhere in the world as well. I'm sure people are using the buzzer flags. Now, that is a standard piece of kit for a lot of people, and using the buzzer flags, you need to understand how to use it, when to use it, and not just think it's a playful gadget, because it does have a valuable part to play, but it's not an alternative to understanding the basics of eye contact as an assistant referee, good body language, early flag work down below, doing all the right things before you actually even press the buzzer to alert the referee as regards a foul, off the ball incident, an offside if that's what they're asking for, and things like that. So the basics are really, really essential, and I can't stress that enough. As regards when you start off at grassroots, learn the basics, understand the basics. Don't try and run too quick and get a set of buzzer flags and think that that's an alternative. Buzzer flags are not an alternative, they're an addition to the basics.
It's the Referees World podcast with Darren Cullum and Richard Mellin, and we're sort of just very quickly I say very quickly, it's kind of rattled on a bit, but we've gone off on our little tangents, but that's what we do. You know, one part of a conversation will always lead into another, and we're sort of looking at that new interpretation of the Law 11 offside and how it has an impact. And that is the key word now, isn't it? Impact on the players.
Yeah, we talked about the Crystal Palace Villa offside decision and the correct decision not to award the goal. But I think we need to use another good example of offside interpretation involving Liverpool versus Bournemouth. And fortunately, I was actually watching that game on the TV, and you don't realise the speed of what things are happening at until you actually sit there and they slow it down. When they start slowing it down, you realise the skill sets of assistant referees and the speed of thought, because that's an important thing. The Liverpool goal, the goal that was scored by Benteke, take out Coutinho from the equation, the goal is a good goal. But the impact of Coutinho, the Liverpool player, on in his position, in a central position, I think it's about 8 yards out, maybe 10 yards out from goal, central position, he does impact on the Bournemouth keeper's vision to play the ball or not play the ball, and that is clearly an offside decision that should have been given.
So Benteke was onside.
Benteke was always onside from the time the ball was played. The ball was coming at a real fast pace, and it's a case of, is he impacting? Is he not? Did he play it? Did he not? He certainly didn't play the ball, Coutinho, but he did impact and gesture to play the ball. He did attempt to play the ball. That's quite clear, but that's in slow motion. That's in slow motion. We can make that identity, and that wasn't seen by anybody until they started slowing the whole process down. This what we're about now is about learning from our colleagues, and this is what we try to do as regards sharing information, sharing education, and the impact of Coutinho on the Liverpool goalkeeper. It should have been given as offside.
But it wasn't. That's the reason why it's the one that you keep hearing about.
Because it's controversial,
absolutely.
and because it sells newspapers, it sells
it winds people
TV,
up, and it gives us something to talk about.
Yeah, it's giving us a little bit to talk about. But for the positive, I just want to go back to that fantastic decision made by Keith Stroud and his team, Pete Kirkup, and I cannot remember who the other members of the team were, but the way in which they got to make that key match decision was absolutely fantastic. They shared information and they communicated and they come to the right conclusion, and fair play, well done.
And it's definitely worth sounding some of these clips out on YouTube after you've listened to the podcast, because then you can go back and you can relate to it, or then you can watch it whilst we're talking about it as well, which makes a lot of sense.
It's for some of us, it's an easy way of learning. Rather than talking about it, if you can visually learn from it, that's effective as well.
This is Referees World with Darren Cullum and Richard Mellin.
If you are a new listener, welcome along. My name's Darren Cullum. This is Richard Mellin. It's the Referees World podcast. We like to get out there, get involved. We'd like to hear back from you as well. And you can do that either on Facebook, just search out Referees World Podcast on Facebook, or on Twitter at Referees World. Follow us. We've finally crashed through the 3,000 followers barrier.
Yep.
Which is a good old achievement.
Still going.
So a big thank you to all the new followers who are all over the world. So a big thank you very much as well. One thing I must say as well, which, and that's purely my fault because I forgot to bring the stuff with me. You may recall on a recent podcast, we spoke to Ross McMenemy. He's going to kill me because I know he listens to this and I've got his name wrong. Ross, who runs Ref Chat, who we're big fans of because there's a lot of involvement there as well. You can go out and air some of your views. Ross has a little shop on his website. And he gave us a load of stuff to give away. Now, I promptly came here tonight and forgot to bring the stuff. So we will have some stuff to give away soon. I promise.
We will. And it's a great forum that Ross runs. So good luck to the lads.
And if you haven't looked at it yet, it's refchat.co.uk, or go to our site, refereesworld.co.uk, and pick up the link from there. Right, okay. On Facebook, we had a comment from a posting there about what actually makes a good referee? And that's something that can really open up a debate and a conversation and a can of worms as well.
Well, I'll say to you, Dar, I mean, you've got enough experience to be able to help our listeners here. Let me just say to you, even our most experienced listeners around the world, as well as the UK, they will relate to all these ideas that we've put down. And I know we've exchanged ideas. And like I say, chip in, stick some comments in there, and tell me. The basics we want to look for begin with focus, concentration, and your approach. You know, I mean, you do this, you've done this, so you know, lead on, Macduff.
Okay, well, seeing as we were talking about laws just now, knowledge of the laws has clearly got to be up there.
Absolutely. You know, let me use this carefully. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is crucial. If you don't have knowledge of the laws and you're tested out on the field of play, you could be on a banana skin.
Of course, it'll give you that extra confidence as well, because if you know the law inside out, you're going into every decision without having to think about it. You're like, yes, that is my decision, and that's the reason for that particular sanction, let's say.
Sometimes I think when our colleagues don't have knowledge of laws, they become stubborn. They become stubborn in their ways when they're out on the field of play, and they slightly let themselves down through not being flexible enough to listen to people. Because even though
barriers go up, it's all about barriers.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, people make comments, and sometimes those comments do have a relevance, a part of a good part to play. So listen to what those people are. Dismiss them if you don't like them, of course. But, you know, somewhere along the line, someone in that technical area, let me use this as an example, someone in that technical area will shout at you sometime during a game, how many more times is he going to be allowed to do that, ref? You know, that is a contribution to your match control somewhere. Have you been missing somebody that's been regularly getting involved unnecessarily, unfairly, and have you missed it? You know, so just listen to it and consider it. Don't take it on board necessarily, but... Sometimes
the players can actually be right.
Of course,
it's worth.
That's what I'm saying.
You know,
that's what I'm saying. This is a two-way street.
You may not want to admit it because of your situation on the field of play, but sometimes these things can be pointed out correctly by the players.
My message will be: don't be so stubborn. You know, just be a little bit flexible in your mind and your thoughts, and just consider what they're saying and see if you can run back through your mind if it's been 20, 25 minutes of the game that they've been going, and all of a sudden out comes a comment, how many more, referee? Just think about it.
You've got to start asking yourself the question then, well, if that's being piped up now and you're in a situation where it looks like the game, you could be losing a bit of control, then you might just have to start to adapt.
It could be a threat. It could be a threat. You could be losing a little bit of respect, you know, and so consequently... give it some consideration. Don't just blank it out because it's come from the technical area and you think it's just invalid. It could be relevant.
So we're talking about what you think makes a good referee. I suppose this list could go on and on and on. But looking down the bits that we've scribbled, we're talking about the knowledge of the laws, and I suppose in turn that will include the competition rules.
Oh my word!
You know, which can have a massive impact.
Competition rules. There is significant changes with, let's say, substitutions, numbers of substitutions, rolling substitutions. Will the competition allow it? We're talking grassroots at the moment.
Extra time? Do we go straight to penalties afterwards?
Penalties. I mean, I was at a competition. I don't wish to name drop, but I was at a game Tuesday night, Exeter City. Exeter played Portsmouth in the Johnson's Paint Trophy. Now, this season, the competition rules state the game will be played over 90 minutes, and then if the games are tied after 90 minutes, there will be a penalty kick competition. There's no extra time. So they are testing... competition rules knowledge of the referees at that level, you know, and I jokingly went in there and the referee came out and said, right, he said, tonight the 90 minutes and penalty kicks. I said, you sure no extra time? No. He'd done his homework, and that's referees at top end doing their homework, and I just say everybody should be doing their homework, whatever level we referee at. So competition rules are hugely important to play. substitutions, numbers of substitutions, rolling substitutions, all sorts of. There are different variations of substitutions, and if they're allowed to return and things like that.
Okay, moving on with this list then. What makes a good referee? How about personality and courage? I suppose would be a good one to put in there, because you've got to have an element of courage, I think, particularly grassroots level, your first couple of games, and you might be a youngster, you might be 13, 14 years old, going out there doing your first couple of games, and it can be a cauldron. I've used that word twice in this podcast, but it can be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, courage is huge for every referee, but especially our younger colleagues that are listening. You'll go out there and you'll come home, if you haven't already come home from a game, and you'll think, why do I bother? We've all had that situation. I can clearly remember my days in those early days of why did I bother? And I was 28-year-old adult at that time. I wasn't 16 or 17-year-old referee that's learning the trade at that age. So courage is there. I think you've got every referee that decides to take the course has got courage, because you've decided to go on the course to start with. And that takes courage to do that.
I think as well it's worth pointing out for those new starters again, and this is something I've been blurting on about for years, is the character building that it does for you. To be able to deal with situations with 22 blokes, and on a Sunday morning, a lot of those could be feeling pretty rough and looking rough because they're the night before. And if you can handle that situation in general life situations, it could do you well.
I think with courage... and I'll use this as a 16, 17-year-old referee. You need confidence with it. Confidence and courage, they do come together. Courage, whatever level, it takes courage to be able to do something that will likely draw disagreement. But hand on heart, it's the correct decision. Let me use an example.
And if you've got all those previous things on the list that we've already discussed, then your courage and confidence will be at top of the level anyway.
Let me use an example whereby it was the Newcastle-Arsenal game, and it was the new signing for Newcastle last weekend, and he was sent off for serious foul play. And it was unquestionably the right decision by I think it was Andre Mariner. It was unquestionably the right decision, but 55,000 Geordies in that stadium thought he was wrong and thought he was the party pooper, and they told him in no uncertain terms, and leaving the field of play at half time, he was not patted on the back. He took a lot of he took a lot of chirp. I think that's the best way to call it. He took a lot of chirp, and match of the day proved him to be totally right, and all the punditry, all the replays have proven that decision was right.
Match of the day can be a saviour at some points.
Absolutely. What it did do, it pacified everybody as regards the accuracy of the referee. And everybody will say, but he's a Premiership FIFA referee. But it still takes courage. It's about focus and concentration for him, of course, and going through the what he's seen, rerunning that through his mind. What he's seen, did I see that? Yes, I did. And now that's a red card. He knows the consequences. And when players take those, let's call that a risk, but that wasn't a risk at that level. That was, just a bad challenge by the Newcastle player, and rightly he was sent off. So courage to carry out the strength of your convictions and know what you've seen. But I would like to say, don't be the only one on the field of play that sees a shirt pull or things like that. But when you do see dismissals, it takes courage and have self-belief.
Next on the list, we've got body language and posture, because if you look like you're how can I put this? If you look like you're not in control, then the players are just going to rip you to bits anyway.
Yeah, it's very difficult to
demeanour.
Yeah, it's very difficult to learn body language as a young referee, especially.
It's something you grow into, isn't it?
Yeah, you develop. You develop as you mature over years, and if you look at body language and demeanour, posture, look at the poker faces a lot of our top referees have got. They do have personalities behind those poker faces, but they're out there to do a job. Now, if you're looking at them closely, just just be, what can one say, be flexible in your mind, and don't think that what you see them do is exactly what you've got to copy, because they are professional referees. They have professional standards, and not everything that they do is what you can copy. But I won't say 99% of it, but a large majority of what they do can be, can be used for training modules. There's no doubt about that. But like I say, some of the stuff that they have to do is for that level of football. That is for the professional level. There are certain things that we will interpret differently on the field of play.
I've got a few more here on the list, Rich, before we finish. And proximity has to be in there somewhere. Proximity and your view, where you are.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many things you can talk about proximity, but mobility, fitness levels come into play here. Proximity to the action areas. My advice is try not to be in the way of players. Don't get in the playing areas. Avoid the playing areas if you can. Players from junior levels, all the way from the youth football, all the way up through, do want to play in triangles, if you see what I'm saying. Try to stay out of the triangle. That's a target. Have close proximity to play. Don't be too close, because you can miss things. That's been proven. Being on top of play is not always the best thing. The cliche of on top of play sounds good, but literally, if you are on top of play, you're not in the best position. So what's a decent position? What's a decent viewing angle?
Left.
Yeah. Left. We'll cover that another time, Dad, because we always mention left. But what's your target distance? Our colleagues on the select group, the Premiership referees, on average, I think they're around about somewhere between 14 and 16 metres from every major decision,
which in turn gives them credibility, and credibility was going to be on the list.
They are professionally working for that. So what would we hope to achieve as referees that are not refereeing at that level? Set yourself targets. That game you did for us the end of last season on the 18s, you must have set yourself a target as regards
just to get through it was my target. It's true. I need to explain at this point that is because it was my first game for a couple of seasons, and it was just a little icebreaker, if you like.
Yeah, but you set yourself targets, and what's a reasonable target for key decisions? Maximum 20 yards, I'd like to suggest. And how to sell decisions. Keep moving. Having seen a foul, or not a foul even, but a challenge on the floor, don't stand still 20, 25 yards away. Close that distance down. If you've seen a foul, you're going to blow the whistle. You're going to keep moving, and by the time the player starts to get up and turn around, you're literally within 4 or 5 yards of the players, and the chances are your presence has deterred any sort of unsavoury comments. And so it's about selling decisions.
Or indeed any conflict between opposing team members.
Absolutely, yeah. Your physical presence does help sell decisions. And so consequently, it's how you use it. Fitness, mobility,
I was just about
proximity.
to say, we're then going into the realms of making sure that you are fit. You've got to be fit.
Sure.
There's no point in doing it if you're not.
Yeah. But the cliche about are you fit to referee or do you referee to get fit? Which way round are you? Be fit to referee. That's our quest.
And of course, something we've already touched on quite heavily so far in this particular episode is communication. Good communication between you as the referee, your assistants, and your fourth official.
Yeah, and
you are a team, work together.
Yeah, even if you've got club assistant referees, and if you're not fortunate enough to have fourth officials, okay, that's understandable because not every level has fourth officials, but you will have club assistant referees. So communication and management of them is key. And like I say, sometimes an assistant referee, club assistant referee can be extremely good. And you can get a pair of good club assistant refereries, and they help the game.
And do you know what? There are some club assistant referees that will give a decision against their own club because they are honest.
Sure.
And honesty was one of the things that I was going to mention. Not only you as the referee, the assistant referee, but if you've got good ARs at club level, then that can really boost the game for you.
Of course it is. You know, and they do make managing the game a little bit easier, as opposed to those club assistant referees are a little bit sort of like, you know, they want to be the station master with the flag, you know, and it's
I had a game
it's up
once.
in the air every 2 minutes.
I've just suddenly remembered I had a game once, and this was a game which we've discussed before because of certain instances which took place, and this was the minor game with the big decisions of what happened. Previous podcasts will explain all that.
Yeah.
But the assistant referee at club level at that particular point was running down the line talking to somebody on his mobile phone. And that is one of the instances that took place on that day.
There you go. So they can be doing all sorts of things
can get a good,
other than running the line.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So hopefully that list will help you decide what makes a good referee. But of course, if you'd like to get involved and you've got any other decisions, then please get in touch with us. Do that either through the website refereesworld.co.uk. We're on Twitter at refereesworld, and on Facebook search out Referees World Podcast. Get involved. Be good to hear from you sometime as well. Pretty much wraps it up for this episode. Rich, as we said earlier on, in the next episode we will have some stuff to give away.
Yeah.
But on this occasion I left it at home.
How will we decide to give the present away?
Ooh.
Have you got any ideas, or should we ask the listeners?
I think it's got to be an online thing.
Okay.
So we can talk about it on the podcast. Okay. It's got to be an online thing, so it's going to be driving traffic to the website.
Okay. Sounds good.
We'll make it nice and simple, and it's a nice little package, thanks to our friends at refchat.co.uk.
Yeah, thanks, Ross.
So,
yeah.
Ross, thank you very much once again for that. And thank you for listening. Don't forget, if you know somebody who's a fellow referee, a fellow colleague that doesn't listen, and you feel that they could learn just through listening to what we do, have a look at some of the comments, some of the feedback that others have left for us, and then maybe pass on a link to them as well.
Happy refereeing.
Happy refereeing, absolutely. And we'll be back very soon.
This is Referees World. Listen online at refereesworld.co.uk or search iTunes for Referees World.